Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, the diet starts tomorrow, but the podcast starts now. What is going on, everyone? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you tune in. Appreciate you guys so much. A big shout out as well to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. I've really been enjoying that outdoor brand new patio this summer. Been awesome. Just did a show there recently with Joe Marino and Jeremy White there on the patio, and it was a great time. Sunny Red's one of my favorite spots. And of course, Imperial Pizza, two great locations, one on Main Street near Canisius College, the other one in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road, home of the very best lunch special in town. One of my favorite pizza joints, one of the most popular pizza places, not just in Buffalo, but all of Western New York. So make sure you go check out our friends at Imperial Pizza. All right, folks, let me get to a couple things here, and then we're going to dive into today's show. And if you happen to be watching this on the video side, perhaps anyway, I am actually live for the first time in quite a while. I know a lot of people are going to ask this question, especially being live on a Sunday night, so I will address this right at the top. Joe from Queens, the guy who typically does Sunday night live shows with me, will be back next Sunday. Joe has been on and if you're watching this, you could see the air quotes, a vacation. Because by vacation, Joe has no interest in Bills training camp. Joe has no interest in the preseason. It's all shit to him. It's all meaningless. He wants nothing to do with it, and he will just be condescending and downplay every point that I try to make up. We will end up fighting, and while that is fun for some of you to watch or listen to, it gets goddamn annoying to me after a while. So Joe is on his annual vacation. However, that ends. He will be back every Sunday starting next week. In fact, the Bills play at Chicago next Sunday night, and Joe from Queens will be on with me live right after that game. And like I said, Sundays after that. Tomorrow's show, Chris Ostrander is going to join me. We will talk some Bills, and we'll also get into a little bit of Sabre stuff as well. Got Matt Warren on Wednesday like I do every week, and we'll kind of go from there. So that's what's coming up. The preseason, the Bills, of course, just played on Saturday. It's hard for me because I am a notorious overreactor by nature to not have too strong of reactions. I did watch the game, and I did not go on live right after the game because I wanted some time to just process stuff. Maybe it would help me from overreact a little bit. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, as for today's show, I'm joined right now by a kind of a last minute. I really appreciate him jumping on. I just reached out to him or so over the last hour. My good buddy, Chris Mazzella from the Step Brothers Sports podcast. I've done their show a few times, kind of new in this market. However, carving out a nice little name for themselves. Chris and Sean, they do a really good job. We hooked up. We met in person at MafiaCon recently when I had Tim on. They did a show there as well. I had a lot of fun, man. So some beers, some good talks, some good times. So he's going to fill in today for me, so I'm not doing something solo, somebody to kind of go back and forth with. What's going on, Chris? How you doing? Thank you so much, not just for joining the show, but again, for joining it on very, very short notice. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great, Pat. Honored to be asked, honored to be part of the show. Been a long-time listener, and heck, you could even say a fan for a while too. But it's been also great to just not only get to know you, not only from MafiaCon, but also your guidance these last couple of years. Just as far as getting our show up and running now, and just being ultimately better and better, and just kind of being like a model of what you've kind of given us for consistency. But yeah, I'll do my best to kind of fill in Joe from Queen's shoes here.
Don't do that. I don't want you to do that.
I'm not going to be able to lay as much hate as he will, but I also do enjoy just the banter between you two. So I'll do my best to just kind of give a few good takes on just what I also saw from yesterday as well.
I appreciate that, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to spend a lot of time going over the game. I got a chance to rewatch it. I'm going to go over takeaways, good and bad. Some of them more meaningful, perhaps, than others. To your point, though, with Joe, Look, I'll say this. The relationship that him and I think a lot of the regulars, which by the way, the first time I've been live here on a Sunday night in a hot minute. So I'm already seeing a couple of familiar names. My guy Tooch, Ryan Todgen, Scott, all in the house. Appreciate you guys jumping on here. Joe and I's relationship, what you see or hear on the podcast is very much what it's like in real life. It is very contentious. It is very, very hot and cold, but he's an honest dude, and I will give him that. And, in a podcast world, Chris, where there's just so much complimenting going on, so much pandering. Let's just call it what it is. He calls me pandering, Pat, and a lot of times he's right. Joe will give you what his honest opinion is, for better, for worse, much to the dismay of what he likes to call the content bros and the Bills bro beat and all that other stuff. But yeah, he refuses to fake it. Like when it comes to training camp, he just says, I go to the camp. I take the ride back and forth to Rochester a handful of times. I stayed in Rochester for 3 days, stayed there for another 2 days. So I got to see most of the practices. And every time I try to send him like a little DM or something, just basically telling me to go F myself and not interested on hearing it. But you are, man. You are. Before we dive into today, you're going to probably be kind of introducing yourself to some new people, a new audience, kind of tell people a little bit about the podcast that you and Sean do, what it's all about. And I enjoy the show. Like I said, you've asked me to come on a couple times. I've been honored to do so. But for new people who are going to be hearing from you for the first time, and just tell people a little bit about what you do.
All right. Well, thanks for that plug, Pat. But to kind of give us a little bit of background, my brother, it's my real life stepbrother and I, Sean, my co-host, he had the idea last year. We've just talked nothing but sports, specifically Bills and Sabres, just for forever. More Sabres, I think, more than Bills it was previously.
Yeah.
And we both have background in just talking regularly for our jobs. Obviously, nothing related to anything sports media adjacent, but still, like, he had this idea last year. It was like right around spring. Like, I think the Sabre season was just coming to an end right there. And he had the proposal, like, hey, why not try a podcast? And he even came up with the name and everything. I'm like, shoot, all right. So we started it specifically with being more hockey centric. I mean, we tried to go down every little rabbit hole of the Sabres that we could. Throughout the fall, really, it was just predominantly all Sabres with maybe a thing or two said about the Bills here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But we had like a little AM radio station pick us up for a little bit for the show. That was kind of a neat experience. But at the same time, it was just giving us more practice, just how to essentially do a podcast after listening to pods like yours or others in the market, just all around the area. And obviously, we're also out of state, not around the Western New York area, so it was like a little bit more of a unique experience for us just covering it there. Like my friends and I all know that I just wear the fandom on my sleeve, essentially. So I'll just say I'm an unabashed fan, but at the same time, learn to be much more objective in my views, especially now in this role too. But at the same time, just kind of going back to the pod, as the Sabres season progressed through the fall, it wasn't exactly the most upbeat, to say the least, especially by the time November rolled around. I mean, you and I have had plenty of conversations about how this hasn't exactly been the most, let's just say, sunshine and rainbows time for the Buffalo
They
Sabres.
suck.
Yes, no sugarcoating it here. But at the same time, we around January of this year, we pivoted and started talking about the Bills. One of our very first guests, Ryan Talbot of the Shout Buffalo podcast,
Yes.
NY Upstate, he got us kind of really kicking it off with the team. And we've had a really solid state of guests, including yourself, of course. And we also have been trying to pander to other markets too. So we're not just solely focused on the Buffalo market, but again, really appreciate my brother Sean for just kind of helping me take the plunge to get into this field, get into this market. I've even made a lot of really good friends along the way, not only in my own workplace, but people like you, people in the media landscape. I mean, it's been a really cool experience just getting involved in this, and now also being a part of the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as the Buffalo fan base. The show's really starting to pick up some steam here. And it's been a really just fun, just not only growing in our roles as hosts on the show, but I mean, just at the same time, doing what we want with the show. Last week, we had a little roundtable with close friends of ours. They're all fans of out of market teams. We had one of my best friends as a Bears fan. We had a Washington fan, just because, again, another close friend of ours in the area, because they're the local team. We got a Browns fan on, another good friend of ours. So it's easy just to have those discussions and just kind of bounce back off each other when we have these conversations regularly. So it's been a lot of fun just being able to really, like I said, grow in our own way, and not only just get little 2 cents of basically just influence from people like you. So again, thanks for the time to share all that.
Well, listen, I do appreciate it. And for people, I know there was a good handful of regulars who were starting to filter their way into this live show on the video side. Anyway, if you missed it in the first few seconds, Joe from Queens will be back starting next Sunday. Just want to let you guys know that again for the new people filtering in. You mentioned Ryan Talbot. That's my guy. When I was in Rochester this past week for the end of Bills game. Actually, it was the last practice. I met up with Ryan and Matt Perino, and it was this place called Dorado. And I jumped on. They did a live show, Shout, and I jumped on. And Ryan is the worst joke teller ever. But him and Matt have really started to develop that kind of, well, they've always had the football chemistry, but it's almost like a comedic act that them two got going on together. And it's really taken their show, which is already great, to a next level. Last thing, and then we're going to stop with this love fest, and we're going to get into some Bills takes here, because I know that's why people are back tuning in on the live show. But I'll say this for you and for Sean and your podcast, Step Brothers Sports Podcast. Lots of podcasts come and go. Bills, Sabres, there's fans that want to do a podcast. I always encourage it. Why not? If you enjoy doing it, do it. That's kind of the only real advice that I have for people who want to start. But some of them are just better than others. And I've enjoyed your show before. Again, I've been on your show before. But until I met you guys in person, I'm just kind of telling you something. I'm being honest with you. At MafiaCon, which obviously a great event. Shout out Dell and a lot of other people who put that on. But I was a little skeptical. I'm like, can you guys handle the lights a little bit? It's one thing when we're sitting in our home office, your bedroom, whatever it is that you're recording these. It's another one when you get out live in front of people and there's a camera and you don't know who the people are watching you, and some of your peers are checking in, people that you admire as well. And I'll just say that you and Sean did a tremendous job live with a microphone, with a PA speaker where people can hear what you're saying. There's a lot of people who don't really have that experience doing it on that kind of stage where they would shit themselves, quite frankly. You guys did a really good job. So I'm very happy for you. I just want to let you know that before we get cooking here.
Well, again, thanks, Pat. I really appreciate that. It was a very unique experience doing something like MafiaCon. Again, like you were also saying, it really gave us a more unique experience to kind of do that stuff more in the future. It's kind of funny just to give another little preview for something down the pipeline for us. We have a new sponsor for a brewery here around the Richmond, Virginia area called Rich Brow Brewing. They're going to be a sponsor of our show now. We have a show coming up with them Friday, August, I believe it's the 22nd or 23rd. And we're looking to do a live show there because they're looking to become a Bills backers destination for downtown Richmond. So we're really looking to grow that brand and I want to give a nice little shout out to Rich Brow Brewing and Hank and the guys over there. So yeah, so it was a great experience. I hope to do more of it.
Really cool. All right. I got a couple comments coming in too. I want to pull this up. Steve Noble said, I'm here to learn or to hear about how good your milkshakes were, Pat. I'll say that for the end because I want to get into some Bills stuff, but just something I did in Rochester literally every day. We'll get to that at the end. Funny comment about Ryan Talbot too. Some of these comments that you're putting up, I will circle back to near the end of the show. All right. So listen,
Ranger Core is making me laugh a little bit. 3 seconds in, I like this guy better than Joe from Queens.
Quick little spoiler alert here. I was at Imperial Pizza a couple hours ago before this show, enjoying some Murph style wings, and Ranger was at the bar. He's a friend of mine. Owns a cereal spot, really, really cool spot here in Buffalo. Anyway, so I knew he's a wrestling guy too. If you really want to win Ranger Corp's affection, start talking about wrestling. But anyway, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk Bills here. Look, the Bills lost to the Giants 34-25. Who gives a shit? Obviously. I got to tell you, if I'm mad about one thing, if you go back to near the end of the game, an errant snap by Jacob Bayer where Shane Bichelle failed to fall on the football, that killed my dream. because at that time, the New York Giants were up 27-25. We're inside 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. The Bills get the ball back with an opportunity to drive down and win the football game. I don't care 99 out of 100 times if they drive down to win the football game, if Tyler Bass kicks a 55-yard field goal, if Shane Bichelle hits, and I know Tyler Bass didn't play, if Shane Bichelle hits, I don't know, Deone Kane in the end zone on the last play to win the game, who cares? The reason why I was pissed was because the Bills could have got in a position for, say, a 28 to 35-yard field goal, and Ray Davis could have came out there at the end and potentially won a football game with a field goal. Imagine the vibes, Chris, in that stadium if Jacob Bayer doesn't have a bad snap, if Shane Bichelle falls on the ball, and if they happen to drive down that field, and at the end of the game, it sets up a Ray Davis winning field goal. Just what the vibes would have been in the city of Buffalo. It would have been like a regular season win, maybe even a little bit more, just in terms of, wow, that was really cool. You know what I'm saying? So I'm mad at you, Jacob Bayer and Shane Bichelle.
I mean, at the same time, Ray Davis at the end, he was interviewed for his PAT that he made. Like, he was like all interested in saying, oh, maybe I'll get more Instagram followers, or maybe I'll just be roasted into oblivion. But like, imagine that, like you said, him being able to take the game-winning kick, like he would have skyrocketed on his followers, to say the least there.
I felt bad, by the way, kind of a little tiny take. I will mention Jacob Bayer because he's not, listen, he was probably not making this team before that snap. I feel bad for him. A fun little story about Jacob Bayer that I learned at training camp this year. Every single camp practice, every one of them, he was the first guy on the field. I didn't know that at first. Like, I missed the first couple practices, and I went, the first practice I went to, which was, I think, their third or fourth practice, I was all the way up on the side of the press box, the very top of the Raptors, the very top. And I was talking to the security person there. And she said every practice, even going back to like minicamp or something before, he's the first guy out on the field. And ever since then, I went to 6 practices out of 8. And I noticed that he was the first guy out there every single time. So anyway, it kind of, that sucks for him, man. But anyway, look, they lost the game. It is.
Poor guy just looked dead inside on the sideline.
Yeah.
They were just panning the camera. It just felt awful for him.
He airmailed the snap, but in fairness too, Shane Bichelle had like 3 opportunities to fall on the ball, and he didn't. Look, on a little more of a serious note, on the plus side, it was a really good day for the backup quarterback job. I thought it was a really good day for some wide receivers who are trying to fight for a spot. And even if it's not to make this team, they're certainly putting tape together to show around the league. I thought it was a really good day for some of the rookies on this football team. On the flip side, the Bills' starting defense looked a little bit like in midseason form on those first couple drives, like, getting off the field. They only gave up a field goal, but it was like that typical Buffalo can't get off the field on third down defense. It was like picking up right where they left off. But here's what I want to do, dude. I want to just kind of go through things I liked and things I disliked. And like I said, I've spent considerable amount of time today being Sunday, rewatching the game. I wanted to watch the All-22. However, it didn't come out before we started this recording because there's a couple plays specifically that I really want to get to that we will talk about a little bit later. But let's start here. I want to talk about Joey Bosa for a minute, Chris. He looked really sharp to me. He played 2 drives. He had a few nice pass rushes. He had a nice tackle on a run play while he was being held. There was a holding call on that play as well. And he played 13 snaps, including a holding penalty, which I did not know before the game. This was like the first time in 6 or 7 years that he's actually even played in any preseason game. So this was kind of new to Joe Bosa. But let's start there because, look, was it like the most significant, development of the game? No, good or bad. But I think about the regular season and the way the Bills have used him. And as somebody who's been at camp a lot, Chris, I feel like he's been ramped up, kind of like what we expected to, but maybe playing a little bit more. I thought at most he might have had a quick little cup of coffee in this game, but I feel like Sean McDermott wants to see what he's got with this guy pretty quickly because he played, again, 13 snaps, 2 drives, and he looked good doing it. Your thoughts on Joey Bosa? I thought it was an excellent Buffalo Bills debut for 97.
Yeah, completely agree. As far as like the snap count goes for him, like I think it was 13 out of like 17 total snaps for the starters out there. So again, it was great to see that like, he had that ability to just obviously stay on the field. I mean, he already talked about it just being entirely different as soon as he's been here. So it's nice to see like he's catching on really quickly. The pressures were great. I mean, what I will say is while that part was you love to see that, but you also mentioned the third down defense not exactly being up to snuff, like you said, mid-season form. But I was also like kind of thinking like, well, they got the pressures here, but Russell Wilson was also like one of the most sacked quarterbacks of all time. Oh, hey there, Sean. But yeah, in the previous years, Russell Wilson, he's always been finding himself eating turf for a lot of it. So I would have liked to have seen at least like one sack while the starters were out there. Didn't even need to be Bosa. Could have been anybody on that defensive line for that matter. I mean, again, it was great to see the pressures being done by him there. I just hope that like as far as the rest of the preseason goes, he stays healthy. I'd honestly be okay with him not seeing another snap again. I mean, granted, they are going to do some joint practices against the Bears this week.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look as far as like how much work the starters are going to get done. But I mean, if it's anything like how the Miami Dolphins just had their past week, things got a little bit scrappy between the two teams, to say the least. So I'm hoping none of that carries over against the Bills for these joint practices coming up, because the Bills are traveling to Chicago for it as well. So they're already kind of a little bit out of their own element, and just I don't want to say out of their comfort zone, because they're paid millions of dollars to be able to do this job. But at the same time, I just hope none of that chippiness like just goes and you see an unwanted injury like towards somebody like Joey Bosa for that matter.
Yeah. By the way, it's football season now, where I got the first Fire McDummy comment from Zuzu in the chat. No, McDummy's not getting fired. But anyway, I will say this too. So the opening defense, they had most of their starters in, but there was no Terrell Bernard, there was no Cole Bishop, was no Taylor Rapp. Does that end up mattering on that first drive where it was bend but don't break? I don't know, man. And plus, no game planning either. So let's, again, keep things in a little bit of perspective here. That's why I'm kind of, for the most part, more focused on individual stuff as opposed to how the team did. And I'll tell you, here's another thing I really liked. And it's funny because it took one play, literally one play. If you've been at camp this summer, or if you've followed training camp this summer, there was probably 2 constants all training camp long. One was Christian Bedford just looking like one of the best corners in the NFL. All right. The other one, Matt Milano, looking like 2022 Matt Milano. The dude was healthy, flying around, making plays all at training camp. I remember one practice specifically, KJ Hamler, I caught it on video actually. KJ Hamler caught a swing pass and Milano cracked him to the ground. And the crowd got fired up. This dude, Matt Milano, in my opinion, and being in up half the practices, a little more than half, Matt Milano was the most consistent, best player outside of maybe Benford and Josh Allen of this entire team. Anyway, fast forward to Saturday, very first play of the game, guy catches an out pass. Guess who's right there? Tackled right at the line of scrimmage. No gain. Matt Milano. I was like, get him out right there. I just saw what I need to see. He looks great. He continued on a cup of coffee on Saturday, and I think if he could stay healthy, he's going to make a significant, and I mean significant, difference to this defense. He is that playmaker that quite often they didn't have last year, and he was back last year, and he progressively got better. He went from very average to pretty good by the playoffs, but right now, this is the Matt Milano. I'm telling you, folks, been seeing it at camp. This is the Matt Milano that you remember from a couple years ago. Great, great, great cameo for him on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, he was a silent assassin, like he usually always plays. I mean, you very much tell like the leg injury, and was it a pectoral or biceps injury last year, which kept him out for a while. It was one of those, but either way, he looked fully recovered from that. And to kind of segue a little bit more into the linebacker play, Joe Andreessen, I want to make sure he gets a shout out too. The dude played with his hair on fire the whole time. So nice to see, like, he's basically fully taken the reins on that backup job. Obviously, it's unfortunate that it was at the expense of Balen Spector just being waived and on the injury report there. But still, I mean, you hear the cliche, like best ability is availability.
Yeah.
But at this, I mean, I won't lie, like as much as it stinks, like career-wise for Balen Spector, like anytime he was on the field, I just know like, shit, we're not exactly going to be able to play the best defense on there. But I mean, I hope the guy catches on somewhere. I hope he can stay healthy. I mean, seemed like a great enough dude. That's just how it always is. It's tough to see, like, especially because he's been here a number of years now and still making an impact as a 7th round pick. But at the same time, I mean, hard to not love Buffalo Joe. Like, he's from the same town we grew up in. So easy to root for the guy.
Sure.
But still, played with his hair on fire. Oh, and he played for a good chunk of the game, I think into the second or third quarter before he was pulled for some of the later depth players on linebacker. But still, between Milano and Joe Andreessen, the linebacker play was looking pretty solid out there.
I'll say this about Andreessen. He's making this team. He's making this football team. There's no debate about that. As long as he stays healthy. He's making this football team. I think he was making this team before Balen Spector got hurt. Before Spector got hurt, I think there was a space for both of them to make this team. Spector's gone. He's not coming back. In fact, they got an injury waive settlement. I hope he catches on somewhere. He's just one of those guys who can't stay healthy. Anyway, so Andreessen's making this team, and I mostly agree with you. He definitely did some good things. He's a very instinctive guy. He's a physical guy. He's a very intelligent. He's a smart player. One of the reasons why I'm looking forward to, and I'll probably talk about this midweek when I have Matt Warren on, because I'll definitely have had a chance to go look at the film. If I want to be nitpicky, Joe Andreessen gave up the middle of the field a few times on some passing plays, and I'm interested in taking a look and seeing if I could kind of gauge what his responsibility was on those and how close he was to it, and just looking at the whole play. But I did notice there were a couple pass plays where Joe Andreessen looked like he kind of lost where he was supposed to be a little bit. But listen, man, he's a depth linebacker, and you could do a lot worse. The Bills' first 4 linebackers are really good. Bernard and Matt Milano, and of course, this is all, provided they stay healthy, but Bernard and Milano, that's about as good as almost anybody in the NFL. And then you got Dorian Williams and an emerging Joe Andreessen who is getting better. So without question, that's your 4. After that, to keep 5, I still think it's a wide open battle. Doug said even that new guy, Carlo, played well. He did. He had a nice hit on special teams. He also had a nice hit on defense as well. I still don't think he's going to make the team. But anyway, good point about Joe Andreessen. He could be on the like list because there was a lot to like about him. I want to go to the other side of the football here. Tyrell Shavers. We talk about him a lot. And that practice where he got hurt at the end of training camp, it was their first Sunday. I was there. He was as good as any receiver on the team. I'm telling you. And he was getting first team reps a lot. And he got hurt on the very last play, making a really nice catch. It was on Max Hairston. And fortunately, and then ended up being just an ankle sprain. He got carted out. A lot of people there in the moment. I was like, well, shit, there goes Tyrell Shavers. I'll tell you what, 59-yard catch before the half. Great route. He's got wheels, good hands, special teams player. He also had a 12-yard catch. I'm really starting to struggle on figuring out how he doesn't make this team right now. Does he have, and this is me asking myself, and maybe I'm asking you, I'm asking people listening to this show, does Tyrell Shavers have more value than Elijah Moore right now? Like, even if they only keep 5 receivers, and I know we're not going to get into this today because I really want to talk about the takeaways from this game and not just big picture stuff, but what happens with Curtis Samuel? He's supposedly close to coming back. You got Elijah Moore. You obviously got your first 3 with Keon, with Palmer, with Shakir. And if you Samuel and Moore, that's 5. I'm like, even if they only keep 5 receivers, I'm starting to really struggle on seeing how Shavers isn't one of those 5. It could be over Elijah Moore, potentially. I guess what I'm getting hit at here, Chris, is I'm just really impressed with Tyrell Shavers. And I'll tell you, this team loves him. These guys, they love Tyrell Shavers, man. I'm impressed with them. I'm pretty sure you are as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's worked hard to just find a way just to make it onto the game day roster. I know he had that very memorable play last year against the Jets in the the home finale last year where they just absolutely throttled Aaron Rodgers. So it was nice to see him have that big play, that moment to shine. And it was all with him being on the practice squad the last couple of years too. So the dude's a grinder, to say the least. I mean, not only the fact is that he's a grinder, but he's also unlike a lot of the build of the rest of the receivers. A lot of the receivers on the team, small, those shifty, speedy guys. I mean, Keon Coleman's, I guess, the most comparable guy as far as his build goes. But I think he's even a little bit taller than Coleman. And he's like, I think about 6'4", like anywhere between that 215, 220 range as far as weight goes. But still, like, it was great to see. I think he had 2 catches for 70 yards, big plays. I mean, had he had a little bit more of a step as far on the defender behind him, he probably would have taken that to the house. I mean, it's really tough to like say, like, how do you not put the guy on the 53 at this point? And Elijah Moore, like, I know he was lining up in the slot as the starting slot receiver for the first quarter, going in a little bit of the second quarter, but like, he didn't really make any big impact plays. Like you said, the film might show otherwise, as far as like, was he getting open? Was he able to get some separation? Like, basically his calling card, to say the least. I mean, if push comes to shove, like, Elijah Moore was not a huge investment. He was just a small signing. You could kind of compare him to last year's Chase Claypool or MVS in a way. But I mean, if Shavers is there, he knows the system. He knows the terminology. Again, the build comparison to the rest of the receiving room, I mean, that might help him out. He plays special teams, which is what a lot of the other guys can't say they could do. I'm sure that, like, when push comes to shove, they could. But at the same time, the dude, I mean, he's slowly earning a way to be on there.
Yeah, listen, I want to say this too. Well, Matthew Whitfield in the live chat said they're going to keep 6 receivers, in my opinion. I agree with you on that. However, Laviska Shenault might throw himself in that mix because of special team stuff. Alex Barber says Samuel played well in the playoffs. That is a fair point. He did catch a big 4th down touchdown in that AFC Championship game. Let's not get lost on that. In terms of Moore, I want to be fair with him. Steve Noble brought this up in the chat. I was going to bring this up anyway. There was a play on 3rd and 15. I put up a video about it, and this is one of the reasons why I really want to see the All-22. Mitch Trubisky, it was 3rd and 15. Elijah Moore ran a crossing route open in the middle of the field. I don't know if number 27, Newman, the safety, if he just was meant to hand him off, or if he just guessed correctly that Mitch Trubisky was going to go underneath the Kincaid, which he did. But here's what I'm trying to tell you. Elijah Moore was open. And if Mitch Trubisky sees him and he hits him in stride, Elijah Moore might have a catch for a 70-yard touchdown, and we'd be singing a different tune today with Elijah Moore. So, yes, I'm looking forward to watching the film in the coming days and seeing, what could have been with him. But I know for sure, just by watching the broadcast, there was that one play, and it was a big mistake by Trubisky not seeing him there. And it's kind of what you expect from Mitch Trubisky. And I would also say with Elijah Moore, I'm not going to be too down on him because he does have somewhat of a proven record in the regular season when the games matter. So we'll go there. One more thing, then I want to take a quick break. Sticking with the things I liked. Both rookie defensive tackles, really good debuts. Deone Walker had a couple explosive reps. He beat a right guard on one play, knocked that pass down. He actually had 2 nice explosive reps. That's what you hope to see. He had a 92.8 PFF grade, highest of anyone on the defense. He had 15 reps, which sounds great for him. Joe Biscaglia from The Athletic, who's just so good at his observations. He sees all the little things. He actually moved to 3 technique on those 2 pass rushes. I want to point that out too. Anyway, he was good. And TJ Sanders, a little more subtle, but he had a really good day too. An 18.2 win rate, pass rush win rate, which was second best on the team. That touchdown pass where Dane Jackson got cooked on, and DeMar Hamlin, we'll get into that after the break, but Sanders was right in Jackson Dart's face right away. So about as good as you can realistically hope for a debut for the 2 Bills rookie defensive tackles, Chris, which we've been looking forward to seeing in action, and we got some of that on Saturday.
Yeah, I was really encouraged at the play I saw from the both of them, especially with that pass breakup that Deone Walker had. He just they've said it so many times now. Like, for a dude that's like 6'7" or however tall you want to say the guy is, I mean, you might as well be 7'6" at this point. But for the size that he is, 330 pounds, he just moves unlike somebody that should be like that big and that large of a human. So I was really encouraged to see that. But thinking just about how well both of them had played makes me wonder, like, where's Dwayne Carter going to get into this pecking order too? Just because, again, he didn't really like have any like big impact plays.
Nope.
I mean, at the same time, like he is a 3rd round draft pick from last year. I mean, you obviously don't want to move off from him so quickly, like in case there is just like an opportunity for him to shine, essentially, maybe in one of these upcoming preseason games. But at the same time, between Sanders and Deone Walker, it's funny you actually mentioned Joe Biscali's article. I was reading that again in preparation to join the show again tonight. But again, Deone Walker, I think it will hopefully be like a steal. Like I know he had a potential 1st round draft pick pedigree had he had gone out last year before his back injury. So, I mean, the things can only go up from there for him. So sky's the limit, essentially. But one more quick thing back to Matt Whitfield. Shout out to Matt Whitfield and those guys on the Sports Brew podcast, guys from Richmond tuning in. So appreciate that, guys.
Nice, man. All right, I'm going to pull up something, then we're going to break. Steve Noble said Hancock looked like a stud as well. Really good segue, because after this break, that's one of the guys I want to talk about. I thought Jordan Hancock, maybe of all the rookies on Saturday, actually impressed me the most. So on the video side, we're going to be back in like literally 3 seconds. All right, I am back here with Chris Mazzella from the Step Brothers Sports Podcast, and he's doing a fine job here analyzing this Bills game on Saturday. Joe from Queens will be back. I know there's still some people flying in the comments. Screw Joe from Queens, by the way, everybody. I'm getting really sick of hearing about what about Patrick Moran from Talking Buffalo? This old Joe from Queens shit. Getting sick of seeing it. Anyway, on a serious note, Jordan Hancock, dude, I was very impressed by him. He had a few nice blitzes, a couple nice tackles. One, it looked like he was shot out of a cannon to make a really nice physical tackle on the sideline. And then, of course, he would have also had an interception, but unfortunately, Landon Jackson got called offsides. We're going to talk about Landon Jackson here in just a few minutes, not so much in the complimentary fashion, but anyway, Jordan Hancock, you want to talk about somebody who he's still got a long way to go. I'm not going to anoint anybody after one preseason game, but a 5th round pick at a position where I think the Bills are just begging for somebody to kind of step up, and no one's really done it at training camp. Safety has kind of been a position of weakness as far as I'm concerned with the Bills from last year. I wouldn't necessarily weakness, but like average to mediocrity. And we saw little glimpses from Jordan Hancock. I saw some Micah Hyde in the dude. Let's just put it that way, man. There's an element to his game that I really like. I thought he did a tremendous job. And if there was any question if he's going to make this roster, I think after just one preseason game, that got put to bed. I was very impressed with him, Chris.
Yeah, same here. Pull up a comment. My co-host Sean. So thanks for adding this one too. He had 4.3 speed. You can't teach that. First of all, right. Second of all, you brought up Micah Hyde. So don't forget Micah Hyde when he was drafted by Green Bay as a 5th rounder. Funny little parallel there. He was also drafted as a cornerback, and he eventually shifted over to safety. So very similar parallel with the two of them there. You mentioned the negated interception because of Landon Jackson's offsides call. So that was very encouraging to see. Another point that I really like about Hancock, again, I like how you preface it with this also, like you don't want to anoint somebody, and you also, like Jeremy White says on WGR, take the preseason pledge, because again, these guys are going against other depth players. You want to just make sure that like you're taking this with a grain of salt while still appreciating what you see on the field. Yeah, I mean, dude's got championship pedigree. Well, it was at the same time at the cost of your dear old Notre Dame Fighting Irish losing to them in that championship game. I mean, the dude's a national championship or national champion there just from college. So the guy's got ball skills, and I really think he was a sneaky pick. Like when I saw the initial draft pick for they got another corner, in addition to obviously Dorian Strong coming even after him for that matter. I read a little bit more about Hancock afterwards and the fact that he could shift over to safety and he had that background as well as even playing a little bit of nickel there. Like it's encouraging to see. Yep, thanks for that, Steve. Potential backup for Taron Johnson and even Cam Lewis.
Yep.
But it's the dude's got position flexibility. I mean, I'm sure if you threw him anywhere on special teams, he'd be probably a great gunner for that matter, just because he's got the speed to match that. I mean, if the guy's able to be all over the field, understand the coverage responsibilities, because I know the McDermott defense could be relatively complicated, especially for a young safety coming into the system. I mean, I like what I saw. I mean, I hope to see more of that, but it's interesting that you did note a lot of similarities and parallels to Micah Hyde's. I mean, you hope that something like that could translate further down the road, because safety, like you already said, and even something we've talked about on our own show, has been a big concern because Cole Bishop been injured. Taylor Rapp out with this knee injury for at least this current week that we have coming up. I mean, we've obviously talked plenty about Damar Hamlin. You didn't hear any mention of Derek Forrest's name on this past game yesterday. So again, if Jordan Hancock can continue this kind of play, it's very encouraging to see.
Yeah, and look, I want to be clear too, man. He's Hancock's faster than Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde is the comparisons draw from being a ball hawk, being a guy who knows where the football is, knows where to find it, and knows how to be in the center of a big play. I'm talking about it from that perspective. Somebody asked in the comments too, do you think Cook will sign before the season? Not going to talk about that today. We'll talk about that on the show with Chris Ostrander tomorrow. In fact, we'll dive into that pretty well. For today, I want to spend the rest of this show kind of talking about the players that were out there, who we liked and who we didn't. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this today because it's been talked about a lot. I'll just point it out. QB2 battle alive and well. Both quarterbacks had really shitty starts, and then both came on and did some good things. Mitch was 9 of 13 for 138. He had the nice long pass to Shavers. Awful early on. I mean, it was literally painful to watch, and we've seen plenty of that before. But in fairness and being objective, I thought Mitch Trubisky came on, and he played a lot better. Ditto with Mike White. He looked awful at first as well, but he finished with 8 of 13, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns, that 4th down conversion, 39-yard touchdown to KJ Hamler, a wide open, busted coverage, KJ Hamler. So we don't really need to talk about that today. I just want to point out that the QB2 battle, I really don't think it was decisively won by anybody in this 1 week. If Mitch is currently the QB2 right now, he probably still is. If Mike White is, he probably still is. But both of them did well for themselves. Michael Hoyt, I wanted to bring up real quick. He had a really good showing. You could see some things about him. PFF had him at a team best 18.8 pass rush win rate. And he did tip a pass that Buffalo Joe had in his hands but couldn't reel it in. He's gonna be suspended for the first 6 games. But I'll tell you, man, a low-key, pretty big takeaway for me from this game was Michael Hoyt is a guy who brings a lot of energy, and he looks to me like he could be a nice little disruptive force on this football team, on this defense. And the last thing I'll say, too, is at training camp, he just Dad Brown from Rochester said this perfectly. I don't want to steal his thunder, his take, that he looks unblockable against second-teamers. He looked like that at camp. Looked like that again on Saturday. So I'm going to contain my excitement a little bit because Michael Hoyt didn't really get out against starters. But this is a guy who's been really impressive to me. And when he gets back in week 7, he's going to give this Bills defense a really nice lift, Chris.
Yeah, and the position flexibility definitely helps. Being able to line him up at linebacker or on the edge. I mean, heck, he could even line up on the interior a little bit. So, hey, Lorenzo Alexander 2.0, that's an interesting comparison, too. I mean, hope he has the physicality because Lorenzo Alexander, I remember just being extremely physical, just laying the hammer down when he needed to. So, I mean, I liked what I saw there. And I remember listening to one of your shows last week, right after practice, where you did mention that, where if he was playing anybody on the second team, like, dude was unblockable. So it stinks that, again, like you're getting this little tease of both him and Larry Ogunjobi, for that matter, just going into the preseason here. And you won't see him until middle of October at that point. But still, it's encouraging to see like what you saw in training camp practices is translating over onto the field there.
I want to point out, I saw Lorenzo Alexander at Bill's camp first weekend there. Super cool dude, man. He was there with his kid. Very likable guy. Very well liked by the fans. A lot of applause from him. He was walking the track. Really cool to see him. Ralph Wilson Sr., a regular in his chat. Josh won't cut Mitch. You know what? Josh might, yeah, listen, man, who Josh wants to be with is good. If you don't think that's going to hold some water, trust me, it's going to. So Josh won't cut Mitch. All right, one other thing I wanted to get to in terms of players I liked. Again, we don't really need to talk about him today. Save this for another time. But I like Josh Palmer. I've liked him all of camp. He's just a smooth, silky smooth, low-key, better than you think route runner. You could see the separation he gets early. A lot of individual at camp reps, a lot of red zone stuff where he looked really, really good. He had 2 catches in this game, also a couple nice blocks. Yeah, dude, I like him. I'm going to tell you, this is not a knock on Keon Coleman, and Keon Coleman really didn't have an eventful day one way or the other, which, again, who cares? But I'm going to say I'm going to give you, here's a hot take. You want a hot take? I'm going to throw one at you. I think Josh Palmer's better than Keon Coleman. I think Josh Palmer's in line to have a better season than Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is all the buzz, and I understand why. He's a high draft pick, big dude, great personality. He has a skill set specific that other players on this team do not really necessarily have. He's going to do some good things. This isn't an anti-Keon take. This is a pro-Josh Palmer take. I think Josh Palmer is going to be in a situation where he by far has the best season of his career. I think him and Josh Allen already have chemistry, and I think you're going to see a lot of good things from Josh Palmer this year. I really like him a lot.
Yeah, it's another thing to point out with Keon Coleman. Like, Josh Palmer, like, he hasn't exactly shown the inconsistency and drops that Coleman has. Well, like with Keon Coleman, like he's able to give you a flashy play here and there, but like it's a give and a take where I know it was a very noteworthy one in the blue and the red scrimmage a couple weeks ago already. And like just that drop, it's just like, man, you got to be able to grab those just on a regular basis. I mean, I could very well see Josh Palmer like going off. Maybe you could compare him to a Smoke Brown, like 2019, just having him maybe have a career year because John Brown.
Sure,
again,
it's a good comparison.
He got the speed similarities, good separation right there. I mean, that was a career year for John Brown as well. He had over 1,000 yards receiving.
Yep.
I mean, coming from a Arizona system, it's funny both guys are coming from out west too, but still. I could see Joshua Palmer easily going off this year, and I would say that's a more. I don't want to say it's a hot take. I would give you more of a lukewarm there, just because I feel like again
Sure.
I think it's easy for him to go off, especially with. I mean, I will 100% say Josh Allen is a way better quarterback than Justin Herbert. I mean, don't get me wrong, Justin Herbert has many great qualities, but still, he's going to get the targets despite it being in the everybody eats mentality. Sure, they are whatever. But still, I do think Joshua Palmer will have an opportunity to shine in the offense, provided that, again, what we see from these practices eventually carry over into regular season games, and that separation is as advertised.
Steve says, totally shocked that Coleman was 99% invisible on Hard Knocks Episode 1. He will not be 99% invisible on Hard Knocks Episode 2. I can tell you that with some confidence. What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to even say at this point. Oh, well, Keon Coleman, look, he's the kind of dude, and just get used to it because it's not going to change. It's the way it's going to be. You are going to either be, wow, he just, what a play by Keon Coleman, or you're going to take your baseball cap off and bang your head on the desk. That's just what it is with Keon Coleman. High ceiling, low floor. Josh Palmer, there's something silky about him that I like. Anyway, and then Ray Davis nailing the extra point. I thought that was cool. Ty Johnson had a couple nice runs. Let's get into, there's 4 players specifically, and I don't want to take too much time here as we start to wind down a little bit anyway, but I have 4 players that I didn't like, and maybe on different levels, and I want to start with Tre White, and I want to say this. I am not out on Tre White by any means, okay? He is a veteran, a savvy veteran. Some guys, maybe I'll put more stock into just one preseason game than others. I'm not going to put a lot of stock into Tre White in this game. And he wasn't terrible either. But you could just tell and get used to it, folks, because this is the way it's going to be this year, okay? Christian Benford's on that other side of the field. CB2, who is going to be Tre White, especially with Max Harrison hurt, he's going to get tested. He's going to get thrown at. And he did on Saturday. So preseason or not, this is a warm-up for what you're going to see starting against Baltimore and every week after that. He got thrown at 5 times, gave up 5 catches, only 37 yards. Biggest one was 11 yards, but I don't know, man. Looked maybe a little bit, I was like nervous, but, just, I don't know. It wasn't high-energy Tre that I think we're used to, and I can understand that. It's his first game back in Buffalo. He wants to play well, but looked a little, I would say, borderline skittish for my liking out there, and he's been a great story, and I've been paying so much attention. When I went to these camp practices, if there were 3 or 4 guys I locked in on all of practice, it was Tre White was one of them, and he looked really good, but it's practice, okay? At the end of the day, it's practice. It's drills. Games are different. And I'm also not going to be naive enough to completely act like last year with the Rams and the Ravens didn't happen, because it did. And I don't know right now. It's just one game, and I don't want to overreact, even though I am an overreactor, but I didn't love what I saw from Tre White in just 2 drives. Maybe he makes up for it and gets his feet, into it later in the game and he becomes a stud. Who knows? But from what we saw, I didn't love it. Max Harrison, I hope he heals quickly. He's got no chance to be the starter week 1, but man, I thought maybe Max is going to be a wash this year, but if he can get healthy, I could see him challenging Tre White, because I think Tre White is a little bit limited in terms of running and athleticism at this point.
Yeah, it's fair to say, especially after not only the Achilles tear, but then also the ACL tear, just back to back. I mean, you could definitely tell like he is the healthiest he's been in years for sure. And it's definitely a game that Tre White wants back. I mean, see criticism right here. Can't stand the hype, so on and so forth. I get it with the veterans. But still, I'll pose this question on here for Bills fans. Would you rather have Tre'Davious White the way he is right now, or would you rather have Kaiir Elam still be there? So I'd still rather be in the camp where you have Tre'Davious White, who knows the system, who's not going to be caught off guard, like how Kaiir Elam was in the AFC Championship, getting targeted as much as he was and just being picked on. Like, yes, he did get picked on this past Saturday, this past game, but I still feel more comfortable knowing that he would be in there. Tre White is number 3 corner. That, again, is likely going to be the plan. So thanks for that, Sean. But still, you do hope Harrison's injury is going to be like not as severe as it appears. And eventually throughout maybe early parts of the season, he'll still get a lot of those mental reps, learn from Tre, watch how real game speed goes. And maybe by midway through the season, you could see him maybe supplant Tre in the starter role there. But it really just depends on how well he receives all the rehab that he's going through right now. I mean, as far as I know, he is off. Max Harris is off the crutches now at this point, correct?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. He was walking around without him. Probably best case scenario, maybe he's 2 weeks away from getting back to practice. I don't think it's realistic, minus Tre getting hurt. I don't think it's very realistic that you see Harrison out there in the first quarter of the season for the Bills. In fact, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Max Harrison starts the season on IR with the designation to return, where he would miss the first 4 games of the year. Look, Sean likes Tre. He trusts him. And I'll say, hey, 2 years ago, Tre White, the first month of the year, he was 2 years removed from his injury. He looked like a stud before he got hurt again against Miami. But he's 2 years older now, too. So I don't know. Do I trust my instincts more from what I saw at camp, or do I worry about what I saw on Saturday? What I do know, like I pointed out, I'll say it again, we're going to find out what Tre White has. You can't hide him. They're going to go after him. Are you going to go after Benford? Are you going to go after Teron Johnson? You're going to go after Milano and Bernard in the flats? No. What are you going to do? You're going to go after what you think is the weakness on the defense, which is going to be Tre White. So we'll find out. Let me move to another guy who I really hope doesn't end up being the starter, but I'm concerned he's going to be. This is a guy that I have a perceived history with on this show and on social media. I'm talking about Damar Hamlin. Everybody knows that. Look, I praised him earlier in the game. If you go and you look at my tweet timeline, he made a really nice stop on the run there to line of scrimmage. And I pointed out, he's been really good in run support. It was a trait that I noticed in camp, okay? But this dude's athletic shortcomings are just so incredibly glaring. I don't know what to tell you or anybody out there anymore if you don't see it by now. The touchdown to LeJordan Murphy, he's not in the vicinity, and he looks like he gave up on the play. I have not watched the film, so I need to be careful. What was his responsibility on the play? Because I know the DeMar defenders are going to say maybe he wasn't supposed to be there. There might have been a guy coming from the other side. We don't know. Okay, but what I didn't like is that because he wasn't there to play, he just stopped running. You don't stop running. Maybe the ball gets deflected twice in the air, and if he's in the vicinity 10 yards or so, maybe he makes that play. I didn't like that at all. It looked like a lazy play to me. And then I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you guys a treat right now. If you're watching this video, if you're watching this on YouTube, I actually pulled this up. This was a catch by Montrell Washington, okay? A short catch. And it wasn't just DeMar Hamlin, but you want to talk about bad tackling and just, getting your ankles broken. Let's play this right here. So Washington catches the ball in the flat. Whoop. That's 33, Corey, who actually had, or Couch, I'm sorry, who actually, besides this play, had a good game. That's him and Dorian Strong. Watch both these guys get shook right here. Whoop, whoop. Now watch DeMar Hamlin. Look at this right now. If you're looking at this screen, folks, he is completely in line to make this tackle, right? Well, watch this move. Fake inside, outside. Watch this how quick he blew past him. Bam. An extra 15 yards, and Cam Lewis saves the touchdown only because, he's in position there. But look at DeMar Hamlin's in position right there and got shook out of his shoes. There is a absolute glaring, Chris, lack of athleticism from DeMar Hamlin. I'm concerned about Cole Bishop. I'm also concerned about Taylor Rapp. I'm getting fired up, can you tell? I'm concerned about both these guys because they can't stay healthy. I love Taylor Rapp. He's a proven pretty good player, but he gets hurt a lot. He's missed the last 2 years in the playoffs when the Bills have lost in the championship. He's been hurt. Cole Bishop starting to feel like a little bit of a pattern here. Supposedly he's close to being back. We'll see. But through hook or crook, DeMar Hamlin ends up out there. To me, this is an indictment on the Bills offseason not getting a better third safety. He's out there. Good things usually don't happen unless you're playing the Tennessee Titans of the world. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, dude. Call me hater if you want. DeMar Hamlin's not the answer, period.
Yeah, we were talking about this off camera right before the show. I mean, on that play, you could very clearly tell that Hamlin had his ankles broken. I mean, you just see the stumble on there. Hamlin starts over Bishop, all hope is lost. Oh, yeah.
I could play that on loop for an hour.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, how can I phrase this right here? With Cole Bishop, obviously, you just see a lot of the potential. You see just hope there. Then you see Taylor Rapp. The guy plays like he's a kamikaze pilot with the amount of hits he's given and the way his body just kind of reacts to those hits.
But keep talking while I play this. Go ahead.
You talk about the safety depth even further. We talked about Jordan Hancock already. We talked about Derek Forrest, not really having much of a presence there. But still, if there's a way to bolster the safety depth in any capacity, I know Cam Lewis is able to play the position as well. But if everybody's talking about go big game hunting for Terry McLaurin or Micah Parsons, blah, blah, blah. Like maybe make one of those dream scenario trades. No. Yeah, I was going to say, we were just talking about this on our show last week when we had a roundtable. Justin Simmons is still out there. Would be a very much plug and play, not maybe starting off as depth, but he's got plenty of starter experience right there. And maybe it'll take him a little bit of time to understand and learn the system. But still, if we're looking to get some depth more at safety or get a little bit more comfortability, I mean, I would like a little bit more peace of mind at safety as well. So, granted, the Bills have negative cap space at the moment. Obviously, that'll change once the final roster cuts are all said and done. But still,
not by a lot.
Not by much, like you were saying. But still, I would like to see a little bit more done to the safety room because of how the position has been treated in a McDermott defense in his entire tenure as Bills coach. I mean, we've said this also plenty of times. We've been spoiled by what Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde gave to the team for so long. And now you're just seeing not necessarily a revolving door, but just so much uncertainty happening there. And you really just want something concrete, something finite, and not have this be a talking point, not only on your show or my show for that regard, but just, again, you want that consistency back that was there previously. I mean, and it's not easy to always do. So I know, obviously, we've talked critical plenty of Damar Hamlin. You obviously wish that athleticism was there, but it just tape is the tape. Tape don't lie. It's just,
No.
yeah, and you hate to see it. And we obviously, and I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible here. Like, you love the story, but like, if you don't have the cojones to be able to make the play on the field, sorry, just next man up.
It wouldn't be a big deal. We're talking about a backup. We're talking about a non-starter here. It wouldn't be a big deal if you didn't play a position where these guys don't stay healthy. Your third safety on the Buffalo Bills is going to play. And realistically, at this point, maybe the best thing you could hope for that's realistic is Jordan Hancock continues to impress enough that he becomes that third safety when ultimately Rapp or Bishop, or both of them, for God's sake, end up going down. Or hell, even Cam Lewis. But Damar Hamlin is not it. And it's not personal. It's not. You could do worse than Damar Hamlin, but God, man, you really don't. You don't need. I should probably give Washington some credit on that. That's a hell of a move. I mean, it wasn't just Damar. In fairness, again, he shook Couch and Dorian Strong out of their shoes as well. Anyway, all right, I want to fly through these last two guys here. Really good day overall for the rookies. We talked about Hancock. We talked about Walker. We talked about Sanders. It was not a good day for Landon Jackson. And I would say, again, Tre White, we'll see what happens with him, but he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. I'm not going to concern myself. Damar is, hopefully it doesn't matter because he's not going to be playing much, all right? Landon Jackson, a third-round rookie. God, it's early, but I don't think it's too early to have a Landon Jackson conversation, man. That offsides, like I talked about, and nullified an INT. Saw another rep where the backup right tackle, I can't remember who it was, he ragdolled Landon Jackson to the ground. PFF had him at 23 snaps, 48.6 grade, fourth lowest of anyone on the defense. And I'm not seeing any impact from him. And it's not just this game. He's one of those guys where once the pads came on at St. John Fisher, Chris, I was looking every day. I'm like, he's a big, imposing dude. You can't miss him on the football field. Big-ass dude. I'm like, where is I don't see any bend. I haven't really seen good pass rush. I haven't seen him look very stout to this point against the run. Now, in fairness, again, rookie, let's not get crazy here, Patrick. It's the first preseason game. But to me, it was an extension of camp. If the whole defensive line stays healthy, he's probably the fifth defensive end right now to start the year. You got, of course, Groot and Bosa and Epinesa and probably Javon Sullivan ahead of him right now. And then he'll go to the sixth when Michael Hoyt gets back for suspension, man. I was sick when Kyle Williams went to the Patriots, a couple picks for the Bills. I was sick about it then. I'm sick about it now. And what did we just talk about? Safety, right? God, if you could go back and, man, if you could get Xavier Watts, the guy I talked about, I pounded the table for him in the draft, a Notre Dame guy, so I've seen plenty of them. He went several picks after Jackson. He went to Atlanta. Man, I'd like to really be seeing him right now in a Bills uniform after what I've been seeing from these safeties. But anyway, quickly here, Landon Jackson, it has not been a good summer to this point for him. No panic yet, but not a good start.
Yeah, at this point, when it comes to the regular season for Landon Jackson, need time to develop. I was actually right about to get to that. I do think he is going to be somebody who's going to be a game day inactive for a good chunk of time. I mean, it would need to be a good one right there. But at the same time, it would need to be a case where like there are significant injuries in the defensive end position there. I think for Landon Jackson to really see some meaningful snaps in the regular season. I do think he's more of a project. And you also got to remember he was coming off the PUP list going into training camp. Heck, I think he even announced it himself, like just kind of passed her by, like at MafiaCon. Like I think like a fan was asking him, "Hey, you gonna be able to make it to training camp?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll be off PUP real soon." But like, you wonder how much that's still impacting him. And he also has a very big history of injuries. So again, not to really defend him as much here, but like, you wonder how much like those injuries he's had in the past are really lingering with him. So obviously they don't want to give up on him right away because it's a third round draft pick. It's a pretty premium asset, a day 2 pick. So jury's definitely still out. You hope to see like further preseason games that he gets a little bit more of an edge to him there, or a little bit more physicalities out there, so he's not getting bullied necessarily. But still, for a guy that size, I mean, for really imposing that he is, like, you hope to see a little bit more out of him going forward. But still, I personally think like a lot of those injuries are lingering on him, which is why he hasn't really popped off yet.
And look, he is a rookie, and it's not easy to come into the NFL and play defensive end. Apparently, unless your name is Abdul Carter, by the way, then you could look like a stud right away. Holy shit. You want to take? I got the best take you're going to hear all weekend, but I'm going to save it for a few minutes, get people to listen a little bit longer. This is the best take you're going to hear all week, and it's directly related to the Buffalo Bills. So a little bit of a teaser here. Yeah, look, he'll be fine. Right now, he looks to me like a 6th or 7th rounder. That said, you brought up some good points, and it's way too early. I considered him an A.J. Epinesa type coming in, and I see, he could still very much be that, and you could do a lot worse than A.J. Epinesa in the 3rd round. One more guy I wanted to mention. Again, just keeping it real with one game, but when you have an uphill battle to make this team to begin with, you cannot mess up your opportunities when you get them. And poor Zach Davidson, man. Dude, 2 ugly drops, including that long ball to hit him right in the hands. I don't know, Steve Tasker, what the hell are you talking about? The ball under, throwing a little bit of defense. Ball hit him in his hands, make the goddamn catch. They tried to make up for it, and really nice tackle on a punt, but that's not nearly enough. Now, Jackson Dawes, the 5th-round rookie, also had an ugly drop in the flat during the game, but he's a 5th-rounder, dude, and he's a great blocker. He's making this football team. You know what I mean? Anyway, Zach Davidson, you feel for guys like that, man, because there's literally no margin for error whatsoever when you're in a dogfight to make a team. And, God, that was just not a good showing for him at all, man.
Yeah, I mean, for Davidson, I know he's been on the practice squad a number of years. I mean, that was probably a big indictment of a play that he'd love to have back. Same with Hawes, but you also mentioned that Hawes is more known for his blocking prowess than he is as a pass catcher. I mean, one of my favorite descriptions of Jackson Hawes is when Tyler Dunn wrote up like the write-up of the Bills draft class. He called him, because of his blood and guts tight end book, he called him the Cro-Magnon type that we enjoy based on the blood and guts. Yep, got a copy myself as well. So yes, so I hope to see like he's a little bit more of an upgrade of what Quentin Morris was last year. Again, I thought Quentin Morris was a solid player, but obviously he moved on at this point. But still, if you can get a less expensive replacement instead of signing someone like Morris for that matter, I do like what he has as far as potential goes. As far as Davidson, I mean, again, that play is not exactly great to have on tape for him there. If he was to necessarily like make this team, he would basically need to be like have like an all-pro preseason, I guess you could say, for him to be able to have any chance of making the 53. But they've only kept 3 tight ends in the past between Knox and Kincaid, and that 3rd tight end was always just seen as like the blocking tight end on there, and as Quentin Morris these last couple of years. So I would very likely see Zach Davidson being a practice squad candidate once again, because you want to keep that depth flowing. But still, I like what I'm seeing more out of Jackson Hawes' blocking and just overall what he can bring to the table there.
Well, I just want to say this too. Look, Zach Davidson, even if he makes those catches, he's not making this roster. But the difference is confidence. You be in the practice squad, do you keep him on the practice squad? Or if he is, do you go to him if you need him, or do you look outside the organization? And when you have that on tape, it's a bad look for you all the way around. Here's what I want to do. I got a couple little nuggets here emptying out the notebook. And then I want to get to some comments from fans earlier in the show. And then I'm going to leave you with my biggest takeaway from this game. Again, directly affecting the Bills in a way, or indirectly, I should say. What do I have in mind? Oh, I want to point out, I think the Bills gave a long look to Laviska Shenault. I like that. He returned a kick. He returned a punt. He played gunner on a punt. He was on the kickoff team. He was a blocker on a punt return. He also had a nice 2-point catch. So don't put all your eggs in the Brandon Codrington being the kick returner just yet. The Bills might end up keeping that extra receiver, and it might be Laviska Shenault. So that's a competition, and I think is going to start to heat up a little bit. Dane Jackson, I know a couple people brought this up in the chat as well. Kind of a mixed bag for him. He got burned on that touchdown, but he did have a really nice downfield pass breakup and did a couple other things pretty well. kind of plays are important on their special teams, at least early on, it looks. So he was all right. So-so day for Dorian Strong. Jamarcus Ingram, didn't really see too much from him out there. Two of those three guys are probably going to end up making this team. I wanted to point out, I don't need to see Teron Johnson play another snap this preseason. Jared Bailey on Twitter had the perfect, it said no one. And then the next line was, somebody launching their head through a window head first. It's talking about just playing like a psychopath, because that's what Teron Johnson does. Protect him from himself. Do not put him out there for another snap. Point that out.
It's like Christian that Simpsons meme of little Ralphie going through the window.
That's exactly what it was. I couldn't think of it. That's what it was. And they said that's Teron Johnson in the preseason. Christian Wilkinson, really nice catch. Didn't count, but I'll tell you, he's been a standout at camp too. And he's putting together some good tape right now for 31 other teams, if nothing else. KJ Hamler is doing what he can. He had that nice touchdown catch, although he was wide open, but still, he ran a kickback. Wide receiver room's going to be tough with these choices because, again, Moran and Samuel really aren't doing anything yet. So it's opening the door right now for a lot of discussions. And then I want to point out, I really liked Frank Gore Jr. at running back. I like the way he runs the ball. He caught 5 passes. I'm not sure he gets back to the Bills practice squad. Unless they trade James Cook, he's not making this team. Their 3 running backs are set in stone if they all stay healthy. But I don't know if he gets back to the practice squad either. I could see him getting picked up somewhere, Chris.
I could very much see that as well. To kind of go a little bit more on the special teams rabbit hole a little bit. Interesting comment there with that one. I hope to revisit that. But still, with KJ Hamler, he had that great touchdown pass. But then the way he fielded those punts, like that, that one I think was probably like my biggest thing to draw ire from, just because the Bills invested a lot into special teams this year, especially with Chris Tabor being the new special teams coordinator. Now, Hamler, didn't want to say Hamlin. KJ Hamler. He's known for his speed as well, and obviously he's had some experience with returns, whether it was his time in Denver and also just some experience from last year as well. But to let that punt be fielded the way it was, like he should have been able to grab that and go immediately instead of just letting it bounce and bounce. That was a lost opportunity for him there.
Yeah, agreed. Let's get to a couple comments that were from earlier in the show. We'll get out of here in just a few minutes. Mark said, every time Ryan Talbot says, know the system, I do a shot of bourbon, forever drunk. That's funny because he does say that shit all the time. Love Ryan Talbot, one of my favorites. He'll be on the show pretty soon, by the way. Steve Noble said, I'm here to hear about how good your milkshakes were, Pat. All right, so at St. John Fisher, dude, every single practice I went to Pittsburgh Dairy afterwards, and I had a chocolate milkshake afterwards. Phenomenal milkshakes. And I'm telling you, that place became so popular. The last 3 times I was there, I tried to do a recording there twice. Something happened. Another story for another time. But Reed Ferguson was there once. The next day, Tre White and Benford were there, which was on HBO Hard Knocks. And then after practice last Thursday, I was there with a friend, and we were just talking right near the window, and all of a sudden, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, Greg Rizzo, Ed Oliver, all came walking in, man. It was really cool. And to see the crowd, it's all starstruck. People got their phones out. Guys were really cool. And I'll tell you, at places like that, they don't bother the players too much. Like, they're obviously happy to see them, taking some pictures, a couple people, getting selfies or whatever. But they're cool with the fans, and the fans are also respectful that they're trying to get some milkshakes and get their ass back to the dorms. But anyway, yeah, the milkshakes at Pittsburgh Dairy were awesome. Ranger said, I look at this team, I feel there will be a lot of players picked off our roster. There will be some tough decisions to be made. Real quick here, this is worth spending a minute on. I don't know if I agree with that. Who? Let's examine this right now. Who's a players that if the Bills were making their final 53-man decision right now, I don't know a lot of players that if they got cut, they would get picked up by another team. Maybe a receiver. If Shavers gets cut, he's going to get picked up.
He would be my immediate first guess right there.
Yeah, I said Frank Gore Jr., maybe Frank Gore Jr., like I said. He could be a third running back on a lot of teams.
I'm surprised he didn't get picked up last year just because Frank Gore Jr. went undrafted last year. I mean, they kept him on the practice squad all year. There were plenty of running back injuries. I was shocked that they kept him the whole year, actually.
Yeah, sure. Chase Bunt, he's an offensive tackle. Somebody brought it up in the chat earlier. I can't find him. There's too many comments, but 6th-round guy, I don't know that he makes this team either. Maybe somebody takes a chance on him, but I wish DeMar Hamlin would be a candidate, but unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Derek Forrest, we talked about him earlier. He never materialized. And someone else brought this up. It's a good point. We've been harping on Derek Forrest. I have, a lot of people have, that, hey, he went from being a good player to last year he was on the bench. Everyone said, well, new regime, he didn't fit. Maybe it wasn't the regime. Maybe it's just Derek Forrest really isn't that impressive, because I'll tell you, he's been running with the third team pretty much since the start of training camp, and that him challenging for a starting spot, maybe even just a roster spot, it's just never materialized. But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. Maybe Brad Robbins, if they cut the punter, even though there's no competition, because they did say that there's he's competing against himself. There's no guarantee he makes this roster. I don't know that I agree with that take, though. I really don't think the Bills have a lot of guys that are getting weighted and picked up by other people. Do you?
I'll say one. I mean, obviously, he had limited action yesterday, but I mean, obviously, it's not Ray Davis making the kicks, but Caden Davis, I believe, the new reserve kicker they have in place. I bet he'll latch on somewhere for sure, just because a lot of people, they go through some real kicking woes throughout the year. And I think somebody like him, he seemed pretty sure-footed. I mean, from what I read about him for his tryout, maybe the limited practices he had, it sounded like he had some pretty decent accuracy. I'm not sure what his long ball would be like, but maybe we'll see a little bit more of that in the next couple games. But still, I could see him potentially being picked up by somebody, maybe on the practice squad, or if, God forbid, somebody's kicker gets injured, hey, you never know. That guy might get himself a starting job.
Steve Noble says, as often as our linebackers get hurt, I would have taken Dolak in a heartbeat round 7 instead of Prather. Fair take. I'll say this too, because I pay very close attention to Sean Dolak, somebody I consider, a family, they're family friends, and had him on my show, and I follow him very, very closely. He had a really impressive debut with the Rams. He played 48 snaps, the most of anybody on the Rams defense this weekend, and he played a lot in the first half too. So it wasn't garbage time second half. He had 4 tackles, 2 solo, all in the first half. He's got a legitimate chance. They got Chris Paul Jr. too. The 2 rookie inside linebackers. He's got a legit chance to make that team. I will add, because there's a lot of people who have said, well, I can't believe the Bills didn't sign him, as an undrafted free agent or whatever. Now, Steve's take is they should have drafted him. That's a fair point. But once they didn't, it wasn't that the Bills didn't want Sean Dolak. It's that Sean Dolak saw better opportunities elsewhere. He's an inside backer. They got Terrell Bernard. They got Joe Andreessen, and they had Balin Spector. So, he didn't feel like the Bills were his best opportunity. So that's not why he's that's why he's not in Buffalo, I should say. Mark, remember all the more hype from all the Buffalo media. He might not even make this team. All right, it's fair, and you're right. $2.5 million guaranteed money, but that does not guarantee that he's going to be on this roster. I will say that. Curtis Samuel is like the wild card right here. And I want to be careful to not, go down this rabbit hole, because we'll be here for another 2 hours. But Curtis Samuel's not getting cut. I can tell you that right now. $7.5 million to save nothing. That's not happening. They'd love probably to trade Curtis Samuel, because then they would get all that money back and it wouldn't be dead cap money. However, who's going to trade for an oft-injured guy with a $7.5 million cap hit? You probably would have to give compensation to get someone to take his contract. Like, it might take you a 5th and Curtis Samuel to get a future 7th or something like that. So that's not likely. I still think, though, ultimately Moore makes his team, Chris, and I'll throw this back to you on this point. Let's not forget, it has been a preseason game. One preseason game. Though, to be fair, not really seen anything from him at camp either. But, like I said earlier in this show, he's done it before. He had 62 catches last year. I'd be surprised if he doesn't make this team.
I would be as well. Just kind of backtrack to that Curtis Samuel mock trade you had there. I believe the Athletic had something crazy where Curtis Samuel and like that 4th or 5th round pick would get you Terry McLaurin. So like if that's the case, yeah, sign me up. But at the same time, it would have to be a lot, I think, for Curtis Samuel to not make the team. I mean, because ultimately the Bills have to find somebody to take on that $8 million. I believe it's like around $8 million on the salary cap for that. And not everybody be willing to do that at this point in time because they're trying to make sure their own rosters and cap space are in good order, especially if they want to be able to make moves, say at the trade deadline or something like that.
Sure.
Obviously, soft tissue injuries are nagging and they're very unpredictable, but it's tough to see just because, again, it's been now 2 years in a row. Last year was turf toe. This year it's the hamstring. And it's unfortunate because a lot of players are having the same issue as well with hamstrings. But still, with what Curtis Samuel gave in the playoff game against Denver, he had that big play. Granted, the game was very much out of hand at that point, so maybe the coverage wasn't exactly as firm as it was earlier in the game. I mean, he saw some flashes. I mean, I know he had that touchdown grab in the Kansas City game. Granted, it was short, but still, he's that shifty gadget guy. You hope to see none of the I'll put this one in air quotes, gadget play from the regular season Baltimore game. You hope to see none of that on the resume going forward, but still, I'd be shocked, honestly, to see if Curtis Samuel was off the team. But as far as going back to Elijah Moore, I really just need to see more of him on the field just to be confident in making a decision on him because, like you said before, and like we've talked about plenty, we need to see more on the tape. Like, was he wide open? Was it just
Well, he was wide open on that first drive. I can tell you that right now, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the tape will tell us more once the All 22 comes out, but I would like to see more of him in the next 2 preseason games. Maybe not necessarily the third one, but if he gives a solid showing against Chicago coming up next Sunday, and he's able to show like why people would be more necessarily on this hype train for him, for what we can argue that, he's had some very mediocre to subpar quarterback play these last couple of years between the Browns and the Jets, then I feel like he'd be able to kind of squash that narrative and ultimately find a way onto the 53. So, I mean, I just need to see more.
Sure. And you will. And I wouldn't bet the house on it, but I would consider him still a favorite to make this team. Sometimes I think we read too much into the tea leaves, a little too much at this time of year. Let's get to a couple more of these before I get out of here. Spin said Couch had a great game. 30, he's on number 33. You know what? He didn't have a bad game. He was noticeable out there. Don't think there's a real path to him making the roster. Practice squad probably his best opportunity. Other than that play where Strong and Hamlin got jocked, he was one of the 3. I would agree. It was a pretty good game. Also says, did you guys talk about Chase Lunt? Had a really solid game. All right, so this was the comment I was looking at earlier.
Yes.
He did play pretty well.
He played left tackle.
Yes, and he played right guard as well. I think he's the first offensive lineman to get cut, and you hope he gets back to the practice squad. However, I'll just point this out. Alec Anderson, Tyron Gabriel, both of them dealing with injuries. Maybe if one of those guys start the year on IR and you have that spot open, maybe that becomes his path. Also says Ogunjobi had a real nice game too. I'm sorry, I did not see that. I didn't see anything from Ogunjobi personally. Triton said if you took a drink every time Patrick talked about Hamlin, you would die of alcohol poisoning. That is a fair point. All right, here's my last take that I wanted to leave us with, Chris. Ready? All right, so this is from Big Papa Bill, and he says Abdul is a hybrid between Micah Parsons and a young Von Miller machine. Here's my take as it relates to the Buffalo Bills. And I brought this up at Imperial Pizza earlier. Shout out to them. The Bills last season, week 18, they lose a completely meaningless game to the New England Patriots, right? Feels like nothing. At the end of the day, that loss by the Bills or that win by the Patriots costing them, whatever way you want to look at it, that cost them draft spots. And they were not drafting a quarterback, okay? If the Patriots had that first pick, or even if they had the third pick, I think they would have the first pick, but regardless, they would not have picked 4th. And I'm telling you right now, after watching him for one preseason game and watching him plenty in college, Abdul Carter not going to the Patriots because the Patriots beat the Bills in week 18 last year is going to save people like you and I and Bills Mafia out there who follow the team, years of headaches because he is going to be the next big thing among edge rushers in the NFL. He, in short time, will become one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. And had the Patriots simply lost to the Bills like they should have, Abdul Carter almost certainly would be a New England Patriot. So that is what seemed like a meaningless game is going to end up meaning a lot for years to come.
Yeah, I'm also glad that he's going to be in the NFC. Granted, the Bills will play them once every few years, God willing, unless it's the Super Bowl, of course. But still, Abdul Carter, you could see already like signs of him just having like that monster inside of him. I mean, I didn't watch a ton of Penn State this past college offseason. Not starting to slowly watch a little bit more college football to get more like informed and things of that nature. But still, the signs are there. I mean, obviously, in the NIL era of college football, you kind of wish like maybe a little bit just that cockiness and swagger was a little bit more toned down, maybe a little bit more modest coming into the NFL. But hey, the dude's got that natural talent, and I think he'll be a force. And the fact that he did not go to the Patriots, I think, will give I think Spencer Brown and/or Deone Dawkins some a little bit more of an easier time going forward.
How about Osiris Torrance? Because he absolutely smoked Osiris Torrance on an inside pass rush too, as well. He got Deone Dawkins as well. Mr. Trubisky actually made a great throw on the move. One of the better, more mobile throws you'll see from Mitch. But yeah, anyway, my point was Abdul Carter, an absolute beast in the making, and he could have been a New England Patriot, but they won that stupid, meaningless game. But on the Giants, I'll tell you, Carter, it seems like they got a good quarterback in the future. You got Malik Neighbors. I love that defensive line. Nigga. Some exciting times there for the Giants, but who gives a shit about them? We're not talking about them.
You Bills, get regular entertainment from Jameis Winston, too. Don't forget that.
Oh, I said I wish the Bills would cut Mitch and Mike White just to bring Jameis in, just so I could be entertained and no other reason. Concluding, I'm getting out of here. We're done here. But I think going forward, the defensive line, how they look this week in Chicago, Jordan Hancock, can he repeat can I see more of what I saw from him? That's what I'm really locked in on. And Tre White, who I suspect will go out there and start and maybe play the half this coming Sunday. I'd like to see him look a little more comfortable out there. But anyway, all right, that's going to do it for this episode. Big thank. First of all, big thank you to everybody out there who's live on the video side. Nice little crowd, man. Got up around 600 or so without any real advertising or anything. Just kind of popped it up there on a Sunday night. So I appreciate you guys very much for that, especially the regulars who like to chime in on the video side here. Big shout out to you, Chris, man. Make sure you guys are checking out Step Brothers Sports Podcast. I'll put a link to the show notes. Chris and Sean do a really, really good job, man. I appreciate you very, very much, dude.
Yeah, thanks so much, Pat. As far as where you could find us, again, you could find us Step Brothers Sports. You can find me on social media platforms at CFMAZ, CFMAZ. And you can also find my brother and co-host, Sean, at SV The Don, SV The DON. And again, we're a weekly show. We try and do one episode a week. Day kind of varies because we both have day jobs. Appreciate that, Steve. Thank you so much. But yeah, day kind of varies because we both have day jobs as well. But still, we're trying to just keep up with the content out there, just whether it's Bills or Sabres related. And again, we're just also just growing as a show as well. Just now being on the why am I blanking on it all of a sudden? Buffalo fan base. Yes, the new platform that we're on, the Bills Mafia Buffalo fan base. And also glad to be part of the Hockey Podcast Network too. So again, big thanks to them. And Pat, thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate you very much, dude. Again, appreciate everyone who watched and listened to this. I'll be back. Chris Ostrander joins me. Bills talk. What the hell's going on with James Cook? How does that play out? We'll talk about that and get into some Sabre stuff as well on the show tomorrow.